Welcome back to Redefine Radio. I'm really excited to be here with you guys. Today, we're going to be talking about the fear of success and why we hold ourselves back so often from the success that we strive so hard to achieve. We're really going to dive into why we fear success, and then we're going to talk about some practical tips to overcome the fear of success. So a lot of times people talk about the fear of failure, that we often avoid doing difficult things, avoid changing paths, avoid pivoting, avoid doing things for the fear of failing, the fear of not succeeding. But what happens when the success itself is what's creating the fear that's stopping you from doing what it is that you really want to do? There's a main difference between those two. The person who's afraid of failing is afraid of a negative result from making a change. The person who's afraid of success is afraid of the positives that they know will come from making a change. So, two very different types of fear, but fear nonetheless. There are common signs that someone has a fear of success. Number one, and I'm putting myself out there, is procrastination. A long time ago, I used to actually brag on my ability to procrastinate on tasks. And I often said, like, oh, I do my best work under pressure. But honestly, procrastination is setting you up, right? It's either setting you up for failure in some cases, but it also sets you up for just a bag of anxiety. It sets you up for disappointment. And it ultimately is a self-fulfilling prophecy because you're almost telling yourself that the task is too hard for you to complete. And in procrastinating, you make it hard to complete the task, right? But procrastination is often based in fear. And I used to believe that procrastination was actually laziness. I'm just too lazy to do the work that's required of me. I'm too lazy of a person to actually get things done. And that's why I don't deserve to have success, right? Because I'm too lazy. I don't have a hard work ethic. But procrastination, when we dig a little deeper and we ask ourselves some questions and we really get to the root of why we're avoiding doing something, 9 times out of 10, it is based in fear. I myself suffer from a fear of success. I think for me personally, in my life, I've had examples of success, but most of my family and for a lot of my life, we were in survival mode all of the time. Um, for a while as a child, I grew up in poverty. Both of my parents were immigrants to America, and neither one of them had a college degree. So they struggled finding their place in America. They struggled through corporate America. They struggled to pay the bills, put a roof over our head, food, and all of that. And I would say that my dad has been pretty successful even from an economic standpoint, but it didn't come without a price. So when you are in survival mode, you're constantly operating off of needs. You never actually get to wants. You never actually get to thrive in life because you're consistently waiting on the other shoe to drop. And when you're raised in survival, it's really hard to see anything else that can come out of your situation. I know for me, I desire so much more out of my life because I know that more is possible. It's a huge reason why my parents even moved to the United States to give me a better shot at opportunity than they ever had. But now that I sometimes find myself on like the edge, the precipice of success, I find myself scooting back because I've never seen the other side of this. Um, you want to make more money, but you've never seen that much money before. You want to have nice things, but what if I can't handle it, right? Those are all of the fears that come into, or the sub fears, I would say, that go into the overall fear of success because it's not something you've ever seen done before. And then because of that, when you know that there are certain steps that you have to take in order to reach success, you will deny yourself the ability to take those steps. You will procrastinate, right? So that's one sign of the fear of success. Another one is self sabotage. I think it's pretty close to procrastination. I think procrastination is preventing yourself from actually taking a step forward. But then I would liken self-sabotage to taking a step forward with one foot and then stepping on that foot with the other foot, right? It's like you're in what it is that you asked for, but because it requires you to grow and stretch, it's so uncomfortable that you sabotage your progress. You do things that keep you in that place so that now you can justify why you haven't moved forward because you didn't truly believe that you had the ability to, right? Once again, that self fulfilling prophecy of, well, yeah, I never really thought that I deserved to be here. I knew this wasn't going to work out. And you sabotage your own success by not doing what it is that you know that you need to do. And then, of course, the feeling undeserving. I don't like the term imposter syndrome for a variety of reasons, but this is where imposter syndrome comes in. This idea that, like, yes, I want to be in this space, but something about me, whether it's internal or external, coming from outside influences, makes me believe that I don't deserve to be in this space. And someone is going to find out that I don't deserve to be in this space. And someone is going to think that I'm a failure. And someone is going to see that, hey, she doesn't know what she's talking about. One thing I've learned about myself from a lot of self reflection and self awareness is that I also have a fear of learning out loud. I have a fear of being seen trying because for so long, there were certain things that came very naturally to me. I am a lover of music still, and I got really good grades in school. It just like school came very easily to me. But I remember as a child, I shied away from sports. I shied away from athletics because I just didn't think that I was good. And there are a lot of valuable lessons that come from playing team sports, and there are just valuable lessons from trying things in general, even if you're not the best at it. That stretch and that pull and that growth that comes from trying new things is so drastically important to a person's sense of self. And I really limited myself in that capacity because I did not want to do things that I felt like I was not going to be good at. I did not want to be seen as a failure because I didn't get it right the first time. And a lot of it came from just having very high expectations that came from my family, from my parents. Um, because certain things came so naturally to me, I wasn't necessarily praised for my achievements, but I was scorned when I fell below the standard. And so that makes it very hard for someone to go out on a limb and try things that they're not naturally good at, or things that there might be a learning curve, right? We might have to take some time to hone our skills and possibly fail and just pick ourselves up and try again because you have such high expectations of yourself. That creates a feeling of being undeserving of success because you feel like you haven't truly earned it. This could be subconscious, and it makes it really hard to recognize when you're experiencing it. Like I said, it took me a long time, and I'm still learning to identify those triggers um, when it comes to feeling undeserving. The triggers that come when I'm procrastinating on something, the triggers that show that I'm experiencing a fear of success. Therapy has helped a tremendous amount. And I think just overall growth, because these were things I would have never been able to identify in myself in my 20s. But it takes time, and you have to give yourself grace as you go through it and as you grow through it. I myself personally battle with a fear of success. I tend to experience that fear when it's time to move on to new chapters, including this chapter. I knew that I felt alone in my journey of rediscovering myself and redefining what success looks like to me. I was the person, and of course, most millennials are, we were told, go to school, get a degree, get a good job, and everything will fall into place. That American dream that, we saw growing up will be accessible to us if we just take these steps. And I remember 2019 being the most chaotic year of my adult life emotionally. I was extremely miserable. I was at a job that I hated. I couldn't stand where I was. I used to pull up into the parking lot of my office and cry every morning because I did not want to go to work. And I just remember thinking, this could not be the life that was promised to me. This could not have been the feelings and emotions that my parents would have wanted me to experience because they had struggled so much to give me, an opportunity. And I did everything that everyone told me to do. And now it looked as though I was not reaping any benefits of that life. And it took years for me to admit to myself that what I was doing was not what I wanted, that my career and the titles that came with it are not truly who I am. And a lot of our identity as young adults is framed by the accomplishments that we achieve. And one day you wake up and you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't even recognize who you see looking back at you because you have all of these accolades, but you're so incredibly miserable. And it feels so lonely to have to explain that to somebody because people don't understand. And so I lived in a perpetual state of loneliness for probably 2 to 3 years. But then I started talking to my peers, and so many of my peers felt the exact same way. And it was sad on one hand, and then valuable on the other hand, because I felt seen. I felt validated in my experience. I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. And I thought to myself, what if I could create a space for people who feel the way that I feel to just gather inspiration, and to have their feelings validated? If I know hearing from other people that they have the same, struggles, that they're going through the same emotions, that they want the same type of life pivot that I do, how much more beneficial could it be if we created a community, if we created a space for other people to hear these stories and to see that there is a better way of life and that there is success on the other side of the difficult decisions that they may be avoiding. And so this podcast was years in the making, but I also knew that because of the type of community and environment that I wanted to grow, that this could develop very quickly. And that scared me. That scared me. I was afraid to do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing. I'm not a huge tech person. So I was like, well, I don't know how to record podcasts and edit audio and edit video. And I don't know what the greatest podcast mic is. And I don't have the nicest camera. And I don't know how to operate a camera. Like, I came up with every single excuse for why I could not do this. And it all came from this fear of, what if this really works out? And I think when I dig a little deeper into why I procrastinated for so long and why I was so afraid, the surface level things were from an education standpoint. Like, I'm not a techie person. I'm going to have to figure out how to edit stuff. I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. But really, what it was that it was scary to consider that I could really change my life. It was really, really scary to consider that this could go from just being a complaint, to actually coming to fruition. And for so long, I was just, Dani Lyn Esquire. And the Esquire was the exclamation point on my identity. I allowed my career to be what defined me as a person. And now I had to go from just simply complaining about it to actually taking the steps to redefine who I was and see who Danielle is on the other side of all of these accolades that she has accumulated over the years. That is a scary, scary thought, because it's that fear of the unknown too. And the unknown is the person that's going to be looking back at you on the other side of all of this. It's so dangerous being in a comfort zone. It is so incredibly dangerous being in a place where you are just going through the motions, because you will die there. Your creativity, your potential, your purpose will die in a comfort zone. But in order to become everything that you are supposed to be, it requires you to become a new version of yourself, a person that you've never actually seen, and sometimes a person that you might not actually think that you can become. And so when I dug deeper into why I kept avoiding creating Redefined Radio, I had to admit to myself it was because I wasn't yet willing to do the work to become a new person. It was so much easier to hide behind, oh, I don't want to be just the attorney. I don't want my career to define me. But everything that I was doing was exactly that, just allowing myself to sit in this comfort zone and not try new things and not challenge myself to be a new person. When I think about my personal fear of success, I think about this platform. I think about what we are creating here together, this space that we're creating here together. It's the fear of change, a change in your environment, a change in your title, a change in who you are as a person that can really stifle the growth that's needed to get to the success that you want. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself. I, over the last couple of years, have really made some attempts to shift my career. And a lot of those attempts have not succeeded. And it drove me more into imposter syndrome. It drove and fed that fear of failure. It drove and fed that feeling of being undeserving. Because I just kept getting rejected and I couldn't understand why. I just knew that I wanted to help people. That has been the overarching desire my whole life, is that I wanted to help people and I wanted to do work that was impactful. I wanted to do things that would leave a legacy, and not the type of legacy where, my name is in lights or in papers necessarily, but that my life meant something, that I wasn't just like a blip in the universe. And I had a conversation the other day, just saying, like, I know I want to help people, but I don't know in what capacity. Like, people ask you, well, what is it that you want to do? I really don't have an answer. I don't necessarily have a solid answer. And that can be really frustrating because you feel like you have to have things planned out. You feel like things have to be very black and white and very mapped out, because that certainty creates a false sense of control. You think you have everything together because this is a step-by-step list on how we're going to achieve this goal. And when you are living in a state of uncertainty, your life feels out of control because you don't know what the end result is going to be. And that will also prevent you from moving forward, that fear of uncertainty, that perceived lack of control. I mean, quite honestly, we don't have control over much in this life, but we feel like we do when we have a routine. When you break routine, or you have to learn something new, or you have to change something about the life you're currently living, it makes you feel like you don't have control anymore. And so a lot of, I guess, the guilt that I have felt about transitioning and pivoting my life has been surrounded by this idea of, I don't know, and I was afraid of people seeing that part of me. I was afraid of people knowing that I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know what I'm doing. But I still have never given up that burning desire to help people. And so in this conversation, the person said, you're used to giving of yourself to others, like sharing your gift with other people. Now's the time to share it with yourself and do it for yourself. That's the reason why it's so easy to go to a job and do other things for other people, because the focus is them. now is the opportunity to shift all of that talent and all those gifts and all of that energy onto you and your endeavors. And I never really thought of it like that. Like in doing certain things, I was giving so much of myself to other people. That is proof positive that I have what it takes to achieve what it is that I want to achieve, and to do the things that I want to do, because I can do it for others. All I have to do is rechannel that same energy into the things that I want for myself. And I think that really, really shifted my perspective. And it's something that I want you guys to take away from this conversation, is that you have everything that you need. Your gifts will make room for you. All you have to do is take the first step. And I know that that's hard, and I know that that's difficult, and I know that that can feel uncomfortable. But don't get swallowed up by all of the steps that you have to take to get from where you are to where you want to be. Just make sure every day, every 24 hours that you're given, you're taking one more step in that direction, in a forward progression, and eventually you will see yourself at the finish line. We've talked a lot about the internal things that play into the fear of success, but let's talk about some of the external factors that contribute to the fear of success. A lot of what I think millennials and Gen Z, the workforce of America currently are experiencing is like this pushback against what the generations before us saw as acceptable. And I'm going to speak specifically to career choices, right? So I remember when I was like in middle school, high school, the big battle that was happening with taking arts out of school, right? Limited funding and all of that played into public school education. And so some of the first programs that were being cut were band and chorus and all of the musical kind of artsy type of programs for children, because they were not seen as valuable overall in the child's life. Obviously, they're not going to cut math, they're not going to cut English or anything of that nature, but they would cut the arts. And over time, majors like anything in humanities, women's studies, dance, theater, things of that nature, they're not seen as acceptable professions. They're seen as hobbies. Growing up, I performed. I loved music. I loved acting. I loved theater. I still do. But I was truly, truly dedicated to it, to the point where I ended up graduating from a performing arts high school. And I wanted to be a Broadway actress. I was classically trained as a singer. I did all of the competitions. I taught myself how to read and write music. I had started teaching myself how to play the keyboard. It was a required class at my performing arts high school. But I was extremely dedicated to the craft, and I just knew for a fact that this was my life's calling and this is what I wanted to do. And God love him, my dad told me that he was not going to pay for me to go to school to do what people on American Idol do for free, and that I needed to find a more solid professional goal, a more concrete major. And all of that translates to, you need to go find yourself a real job. Okay, let's be 100% honest. And looking back at it, I know that my dad meant well. I know that he wasn't necessarily trying to stomp on my dream. It was more so, once again, when I was talking earlier about that survival type of mentality that can prevent you from walking into success because you're always in survival mode. It came from that. And he just wanted to make sure that I was going to be okay. But as a 17, 18-year-old, that killed everything. It killed everything. I lost my confidence in myself. I never lost my love of singing. I never lost my love of music. But the way I interpreted it was, he doesn't believe in me. He doesn't think that I can really do this. And my desires and my dreams for myself have no value and no place in this world. That's how I perceived it, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's how I perceived it. And so I bounced around majors like 3, 4 times while I was in college. Ended up failing out of college for about a year because I felt lost in the world. And the identity that I had developed for myself was now lost in translation, and I was struggling to find my place in the world. And honestly, that's how I stumbled upon the law. Was because I was such a performer, I wasn't shy about public speaking, and I did debate and all of that in high school, and I was good at it, but it wasn't necessarily something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But in the attempt to try to find a life path, I was like, okay, well, what else am I good at? And I knew my father had wanted to be a lawyer, but he didn't because he didn't go to college. Um, and so I said, okay, well, if I can't live out my dream, I guess I'll live out his. And I did everything, and I did it to the best of my ability, and I did pretty good. I've been a lawyer for 8 years, and I've seen my fair share of success. But I put on a mask because I felt faceless. I put on a different identity because I had lost my own. And now, after 8 years of practice and at the age of 34, remember now, my dad had that conversation with me when I was 17. I'm 34 now. I'm now realizing I've lived the vast majority of my adult life being someone that I am not. But the scary part about that is now I have to ask myself, well, who am I? And how do I find her again among all of the different masks that I've put on over the years? How do I take all of these off and breathe again as my authentic self? I think that society really limits the dreamers. Society really limits the creatives from what they could be, from what they could accomplish, because I think that creativity is not truly valued. Um, when I think of it from a societal standpoint, when we specifically talk about the United States as a capitalist society, a capitalist society is very much focused on individualism. It is focused on high earning potential, what makes the most money. Creativity is valued in a sense based on how many dollars you can make off of that creativity, not for creativity in and of itself, not for innovation in and of itself, but how innovation can be monetized. And that is so incredibly limiting for someone who has a creative spirit. And I think a lot of creatives are seen as kind of fly by night type of people, right? Like we have so many different interests that society tells you, oh, you don't have your life together. You don't have a vision because there's not one specific thing that you want to do for the rest of your life. You will be very hard pressed to meet anybody who knew when they were in elementary school or middle school or high school exactly what they wanted to do with their life, and they're currently doing it now as an adult. Most people shift, as we should, because we evolve over time. We become different people and we have different interests. And I think that we should be allowed to evolve, but society doesn't see it as that. They want you to stick into one path and one identity and let us give you that identity because you don't have the ability to do it. So, this idea of what an acceptable profession is and how much money you can make and your earning potential all go into our fear of success. Because what if we want success that's not tied to money? I've always said that if a job is willing to pay you a certain amount of money, it never comes without a price. It comes at the expense of something. And oftentimes it comes at the expense of intangible things, things that money cannot buy, things you can't put a price tag on. So what if my idea of success is not being a $100, $200, $300,000 earner? What if success means being able to have control over how I spend my days? What if success to me means I get to be a part of all of my son's extracurricular activities without fear of losing my job? What if success to me means lazy mornings on a Monday? What if success to me means no longer feeling anxiety on Sunday evening at the thought of going to work the next day? Is that no longer valuable because there is no price tag that you can put on that? Society tells us that those things are not valuable because there's no money tied to it. And so, in the chase of the bag, in the chase of the almighty dollar, we compromise our vision of success for what others' vision of success is. Cultural factors tie into that because, once again, my family is an immigrant family. My parents were both immigrants from Jamaica. Anybody who's from the Caribbean knows that there are only a few acceptable career paths that you can take. And anything outside of that is, what are you doing with your life? Right? So that has a huge impact on our decision making and our idea of what success is. Once again, when you live in a survival mindset, success is tied to money. If you are used to not having money, if you grew up, in poverty, if you grew up in homelessness, if you grew up without, there is trauma that is motivating you to make money so that you never have to go back to that life again. But what happens is that you limit yourself so much when your fear is not making money. They say scared money don't make money, right? The people who make the most money are people who take risks with their money. They invest it. They open businesses and they try different things and they invest in themselves. And then they reap a huge reward for that. In part, they make a lot of money. But if you think about it in the terms of investing, you can't make money if you don't put money in. When you are in survival mode and all you can think about is making it to the next day, it's very hard to invest your time or your money into something that you don't know if it'll give you a tangible return. And that survival mode of you don't know when your next meal is coming from and you don't know if you'll have a bed to sleep in tomorrow. And, especially if you were a child who was raised with siblings and maybe you were the older one and you had to take care of your siblings, like you grew up very quickly. And so all you're really used to is surviving. You don't know what it's like to thrive. And so you'll sabotage abilities to thrive or you'll sabotage opportunities to thrive because it feels like it's too much stretching. It feels very uncomfortable. It's foreign to you. It's strange. It has been statistically proven that if you are born into poverty, you are more likely to live in a state of poverty because that's what you're used to. And it's about access to resources. And, we have not even considered the racial and gender impacts that go into money and career and, lifestyle and all of that. And so there are a lot of external factors that feed the internal dialogue that happens around the fear of success, right? Let's talk about how we overcome that fear, okay? I'm going to share with you some strategies that you can use to help to overcome that fear of success. I am still actively working on that fear myself. And these are things that I've either done, I've implemented, or I'm going to implement in order to help me to overcome it. And so I hope that these strategies will help you as well. The first step is self-awareness. You have to question all of your thoughts. I have always believed that actions start with a thought first. Something has to happen in your mind before you actually take action, right? Every action, when you take the time to stop and be slow and be reflective, you can link every one of your actions outside of involuntary things like blinking and breathing to a thought. And those thoughts need to be questioned, especially if you are someone who's experienced trauma and you've gone through difficult situations. Those situations have influenced your mentality. That means that those situations have had some sort of control over your thoughts and how you view your life and how you view the world around you. And in order to grow, you have to question all of those thoughts. So that requires self awareness, a reflection on the thoughts and the behaviors that may indicate your fear of success. Therapy. Therapy. Talking through things. Oftentimes, we are coping through life. We're not feeling, we're not experiencing things. We're in a routine. And we have to have someone that can help us to slow down and identify patterns of behavior and then question those patterns of behavior and the thoughts that come behind it. I highly, highly, highly recommend therapy. When I started therapy in early 2021 or late 2020 going into 2021, it was transformative for me, especially having come into a new decade of life, coming into my 30s, to reflect back on the 30 years that I had survived, the things that had happened, and how those things framed who I was in that moment, and how I could break certain cycles of behavior that I just knew were no longer serving me. And some of that is giving yourself grace and thanking those versions of yourself. I think so much of our thoughts are around like what we could have done and beating ourselves up and being self-critical. But if you have gone through things in life, who you became was a version of yourself that was protecting you, right? You were learning how to cope through trauma and how to get through rough patches. And so in order to truly love yourself and grow, you have to acknowledge and thank those versions of yourself for getting you through those moments. You have to thank them. There was nothing wrong with the decisions that you made back then. There was nothing wrong with you believing that the life that you were living and the steps that you were taking was going to lead to success. There was nothing wrong with you allowing outside factors to influence what success looked like to you. There was nothing wrong with you taking on an identity that other people gave you. You are not wrong. You're not a wrong person. You didn't do anything wrong. You're just acknowledging that where you are right now, all of that doesn't serve you anymore. That's all it is an evolution of who you are. So because there's nothing inherently wrong with you, those versions of yourself deserve to be thanked and to be praised for getting you through those moments in time. So a part of that self-awareness and self-reflection is thanking yourself for getting to this place and then letting go of that version of yourself with love. Thank you for getting me through that time and place. But right now, I need to become a new me. The next thing that you want to do is that you want to reframe what success looks like to you. This goes back to questioning your thoughts. Shout out to New Leaders Council. I was a New Leaders Council 2019 fellow. And one of the first activities that they had us do was to write out our perfect day, our perfect life from start to finish, from the moment we opened our eyes in the morning to the moment we closed our eyes again in the evening. Think about that perfect day. What are you smelling? What are you seeing? What are the things that you're hearing? What are you doing? Who are you with? You know, to make it real to you. And it was such a transformative exercise that it's something that I consistently do now, is what does success look like to me? What does my perfect day look like? And what I realized about my perfect day was that I wasn't actually working. And if I was working for myself. I was creating something that I wanted to create. I wasn't clocking into a job. I wasn't billing time. I wasn't even a lawyer, right? I was talking to people, coaching people, writing, spending time with my family, spending time with my friends, sitting out by the beach, like smelling the ocean air, feeling a cool breeze, cooking. These are all things that like don't have anything to do with what society views as successful, right? And what that taught me was that my idea of success is not linked to a lot of these kind of more shallow aesthetics. And what I started doing was from that vision of a perfect day, reverse engineering how to get there from where I am now. Write the vision and make it plain. In order to combat the thoughts that have been implanted in you, sometimes from birth, you have to be able to replace those thoughts with something else, something positive, something more aligned with the path that you want to take. You have to reframe what success looks like to you. So I would encourage you, as you're doing the self-reflection, as you're practicing self-awareness, as you're questioning the thoughts behind your fear of success, that you too question your idea of success. That you ask yourself, did I get this idea from myself, my internal needs, or is this from someone else? Is this what my dad thinks is successful? Is this what my mom thinks is successful? Is this what society thinks as successful? Because if you are on a journey to find yourself again, you have to do away with the thoughts of others. So you question your idea of success, and then you redefine what success is to you, and you write it down. And then from there, you set boundaries. That's step number 3. Okay. You want to manage your expectations. You want to maintain balance, and you want to protect the peace that you are building for yourself. If you are about to open your own business, if you want to leave corporate, you want to open your own thing, right? You have to protect the energy that's around you. I've always said that a turtle and a giraffe cannot see life from the same perspective. You either have to come up to mine, or we have to go our separate ways with love. And so if you are on this path of redefining success, evaluating your life, becoming a new person, you have to protect that energy. You have to set boundaries. Sometimes setting boundaries looks like losing friendships, losing relationships, or taking some time just to be by yourself. What I've noticed is, like it or not, most people only want to be connected to success. They have to see you win first before they believe it. Because once again, they have a very limited perception of life. And people often treat you based on the place in life that they are at. So if you are in relationship with someone who is not ready to do that self-reflection and to admit to themselves that they have some growth to do, it can be difficult to maintain that relationship throughout this process. Let them go with love, or create boundaries where maybe there are certain things that you just don't talk about. Maybe there are certain things that you just don't share with them. Okay. Part of that is also managing your own expectations. When you are someone who's afraid of success, you are also probably very self-critical. You have probably already thought of 10,000 different scenarios of how this is not going to work, and how you don't deserve it, and you're just not worthy of what it is that you are trying to accomplish. So you really don't need anybody else to criticize you, because you have thought of 10,000 different criticisms of yourself. So what's very important is that you set SMART goals, right? Ones that are actually achievable within the time frame. Okay. So if you are working full time, but you want to start your own business, and maybe like you're doing it as a side hustle now in the hopes that you can leave your full time job. Part of setting boundaries is setting boundaries with your own mind to manage your expectations. You are unlearning years and years and years worth of coping mechanisms, unhealthy thought processes, unhealthy habits that are hindering the success that you want to reach. That is going to take time, my dear. You have to give yourself grace to grow and evolve and learn out loud. You're not going to get it right on the first try, but we are going to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and try again, right? So you want to set boundaries with others and set reasonable expectations with yourself. Then you want to visualize the positive. Once again, going back to that exercise of what does your perfect day look like? What does success look like to you? Visualize yourself living as the person you are trying to become, okay? Focusing on the benefits that come with achieving the success that you're striving for, and how your goals, the things that you're striving towards, that reverse engineering, right, of all of the different tasks that you need to take to get to that success, how all of that is going to benefit you in the long run. Okay. And then lastly, seek the support of your circle. I used to want to be the popular girl. I wanted to have everyone like me and I wanted to have a bunch of friends. Yeah, that was when I was a kid. Now, as an adult, I really value my village. When I tell you my friends are ride or dies for me, they've seen me through so many different facets of my personal growth. They have encouraged me, they've prayed for me, they believe in me. Seek the support of people who will encourage you, even if they don't understand the journey that you're on, and even if they're not on that journey themselves. Seek out the support of those who are just looking to grow and improve themselves. They don't have to necessarily want to build a brand, leave corporate, um, completely pivot out of their career, but they will understand the need for growth, the need for self improvement, right? So you want to have a really solid support system. You also want to network. If you are looking to pivot careers and change paths professionally, seek out people who have walked the path that you're on and have done what it is that you want to do, because they will understand the obstacles that will come with it, and they probably have resources that they can share with you. I'm telling you, just having simple conversations with people has really opened my eyes. So seek out mentors, seek out people that can supply you with resources, people that can pour into you. And once again, therapy. Find a good therapist. A good therapist is going to be someone who can level set with you, especially as you're reaching success. Because as you start reaching milestones, if you're someone who has a fear of success, you're going to be afraid. I've been in the content creation space for quite some time, just dabbling in and out of it. And last year, I had my first viral video. And I remember getting on the phone with my boyfriend and saying, I want to delete it. Like, I kept every 5 minutes, it was over 99 notifications on TikTok. Like, the video was blowing up, and it was just a simple stitch that I did in encouragement of a 1L student who, she just had a breakdown like most 1Ls have in their first year about the experience itself. And I just wanted to give her some encouragement. But the video blew up in a way that I never expected. And although prior to that, I was like, oh man, I'm stuck in like the 200 to 500 view jail. Seeing something that I created, seeing my face go viral on social media was jolting. And I called my boyfriend and he was so like excited for me. And I said, I want to delete it. I want to take it down. And he had to talk me off the ledge, y'all, because I was really going to delete that video. And it's still actually doing numbers to this day, like a solid almost 6 months later. But um, I just was scared because I just didn't want people to see me. Even though I was posting stuff on social media, right? That don't make any sense. I didn't want people to see me. So you have to have people around you that can level set with you and ground you, because as you reach those points of success, you're going to want to sabotage again. You're going to want to procrastinate again. Old habits die hard. So therapy. Okay. I believe in therapy when bad things happen, and I believe in therapy when good things happen, because you have to continuously learn to become the person who is deserving of those good things. Okay. So let's talk about the mindset shifts that have to happen in order for you to reframe what success looks like to you and to negate the fear of success. We talked about survival. That's really a scarcity mindset. Okay. That is where you have a fear of being able to handle the success that you're seeking out. There is one of my favorite creators. Her name is Cameron Monet. She is on TikTok, she's on IG, but she's also on YouTube. And I remember about a year or so ago, her talking about making $100,000. And that's a lot of, that's a very common goal, not just for content creators, but for people in general, right? We've always heard like 6 figures is the goal. And she said, I would write it down, and that was something I was aspiring to. But I realized that I actually was afraid of making that much money because I've never seen that much money in my life. And I would think to myself, what would I do with $100,000? Like, how would I manage that, right? Because I've never seen that much money in my life. That's what we mean when we're talking about scarcity mindset. Feeling as though I have to sit here where I'm comfortable because I'm afraid that I won't be able to handle more than what I currently have. Even though I want more than what I currently have, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to handle it. We have to shift that from scarcity to abundance, believing in your ability to grow and thrive. Believing that, no, I am someone who can handle this, right? We have to make that shift. We have to be able to embrace change and uncertainty and see change as something that's empowering and not frightening. You have worn so many different hats over the course of your life, hats that other people have placed on your head. And for once in your life, you're finally doing something for you. You are finally pouring into your cup instead of burning yourself out trying to pour into everyone else's. That's what this moment of change is going to do for you. Instead of thinking of it as, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen, think of it as, I finally have the opportunity to become everything I know I have the ability to. And then we want to adopt a growth mindset. We want to see our challenges as opportunities and not obstacles, right? A challenge is something that can stretch you. It's an ability and an opportunity to learn. It's an ability and opportunity to improve yourself. I had a conversation with my boyfriend a few weeks ago, and it actually became very emotional. I didn't expect it to, but I was telling him how so much of my life and the efforts that I've made and the steps that I've taken have been in an effort for other people to be proud of me. And at this point in time in my life, I just want to be proud of myself. And when I said that last part is when I got choked up, because it was a realization that I'm just looking for me, man. Like, I just want to be able to look back when I turn 40 and be proud of Danielle for believing that I could do it and actually doing it. That is an empowering thought. Doing the things that are required to make you proud of you without a care in the world of what anybody else thinks or says. You deserve to grow. You deserve to find yourself again and to create identity for yourself and to chase your purpose, because you're worthy just as you are. You have value as a person without tying your value to what you can do for a company, to a skill set or an expertise. You have inherent value as a person, as a living, breathing human being. So you are worthy and you are capable of achieving great things just by virtue of you being you. So some additional practical steps that you can take in order to overcome the fear of success is to journal. So you can identify those self-defeating thoughts, and you can see if there are any particular circumstances that trigger that fear of success. Journaling is very helpful. You can create vision boards if you're that type of person. I actually enjoy creating vision boards. I'm a very cliche person. I do it at the beginning of the year, but I enjoy creating vision boards so I can look back and see how much I have accomplished. When you're someone who's not used to being celebrated for your accomplishments and you don't allow yourself to sit in your wins, It's really important to take the time to reflect on how much you have done. Working and hustling all the time should not be the goal. Rest is needed. Rest is vital to recovery and to growth. So if vision boards help you, even if it's just in that capacity to see how much you've accomplished, I absolutely encourage you to do that. And then create vision boards that are focused on positive aspects of the success that you're seeking. And once again, you want to set SMART goals, small, achievable goals that will help you to build momentum. And when you start to build that momentum, it'll start to build your confidence too. Okay. Listen, y'all, I know this is scary. I'm still scared. I'm scared every single day. And every time I make a decision that pushes me further in the direction that I want to go. This is not for the weak of heart. And if you have listened up to this point and this resonates with you, I want to tell you that you're already 10 steps ahead of most people because you are taking steps on the road to self-improvement, and you should be celebrated just for that. Okay? It is okay to feel fear. There is nothing wrong with you because you are scared of what change will look like, of what success will look like. There's nothing wrong with you, but you don't have to let that fear hold you back. The best way to get over a fear is to confront it head on. It's okay to feel the fear, but you don't have to let the fear hold you back. Okay. I really encourage you guys to take the steps that we talked about today to overcome your fear, no matter how small and no matter how long it takes. The journey is what we need to be focused on, not the destination. Enjoy the process of becoming, because if you're a lifelong learner, you'll always be becoming. I'm really excited to hear some of the success stories. So if there is a story that you want to share of overcoming the fear of success, I really, really encourage you guys to shoot me an email, redefinedradiopod@gmail.com. I would love to hear your story, and I'd love to share your story with our listeners as well. So if you guys enjoy the show, please make sure to follow on social media. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Dani Lyn _redefine. You can find us on YouTube. And then, of course, make sure that you are listening to Redefine Radio anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. Share this episode with someone that can use this encouragement. And make sure to look out for future episodes because we have some really good guests that are going to be coming on and sharing their stories with you guys. I'm super, super excited to be on this journey with you of discovering and rediscovering and redefining. I hope you found inspiration, and I will see you in our next episode.